The Daily Show may be fake news, but it makes a real impact.
Oppression. Just because it makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean it has to change.
It's fresh and new and original and smart every night.
And for a decade and a half, the force behind the machine was Jon Stewart.
Did you watch Jon Stewart last night?
Oh, you're getting to a bad place, my friend.
He will be always revered as someone who blurred the lines between news and comedy.
How the hell did we end up here, Mr. Kramer?
And became the conscience of a generation.
When he hit his stride, no one in public life or the media was safe.
I believe that you helped the administration take us to like the most devastating mistake in foreign policy that we've made in like 100 years. But you seem lovely.
He's done a very good job in keeping people to task. He was relentless.
He is so armed with facts and he's so armed with clips that they have no idea what's coming.
Some sort of weird Bermuda Triangle of logic where questions are answered before they're asked.
After more than 2,500 episodes, Jon Stewart has decided to move on.
I won't miss me.
He may be about the only person saying that.
I think he's changed the media and politics more than he will ever admit. But what I will just miss is watching him on TV.
I got big news. This is it. Put a stamp on it. I don't even know what it's getting.
Jon Stewart has left the building. Before Jon Stewart became the iconic host of The Daily Show, in fact, before there was a Daily Show or even Comedy Central, Stewart moved to New York during the 1980s comedy boom to make a name for himself. By the early 1990s, he's a regular on the circuit.
He's very cute, and he's very smart, and he's very funny. And that's kind of all you can ask for in a comedian.
Just really fun because you were watching someone just at the height of their talents doing something they do incredibly well.
His comedy is engaging and has a broad appeal, as seen here at Montreal's famous Just for Laughs Comedy Festival.
If I have to sit through one more tragic profile of a courageous athlete. He's out there paddling his bloody torso for his country. He wants a medal, give him a medal.
In 1992, he gets his start in television with the first of several assignments on the channel of the moment, MTV.
If you ever saw him do stand-up comedy, you knew that this guy is very, very funny. The trick always is, how do you channel that into a TV show?
The Jon Stewart Show premieres on MTV in 1993 and moves into syndication the following year.
I actually saw the movie. You did? Yeah. And I didn't care for your role in it.
But the show is hardly a hit.
It was ahead of its time. It was in the wrong market, syndication. You have to be successful really quickly or you're out. That show died a very long, slow, painful public death.
He gets his shot at the movies, but the notices aren't stellar.
I would say that it's a really good thing that he's great at what he does and that everybody's not always great at everything.
I think that he's his own toughest critic about his film acting.
It called for, it was supposed to be a divinely handsome man. And I don't know, I guess they were all walking the catwalk that day or something. Who knows? They couldn't find one. So they got down to, I think, smartass, you know, something like that. And that was me.
While Stewart is trying his hand at the silver screen, Comedy Central is developing a new program called The Daily Show.
When The Daily Show started, they set out to do a half-hour infotainment show based on something like SportsCenter, which is why they brought in Craig Kilborn to be the host.
The show premieres on July 22nd, 1996.
Give a reason to viewers when something happens in the world, they're going to need to turn to Comedy Central to find out how we're going to spin whatever happened in the world.
So we said, we're not going to do a show of jokes about the news. We're going to do a news show that's funny.
The show lifts Comedy Central's ratings. In 1998, Kilborn is selected to take over The Late Late Show on CBS. Jon Stewart seems an unlikely replacement, but the match is made nonetheless.
When Jon was chosen to replace Craig, it was a little bit surprising because I had seen a stand-up act and there wasn't really nothing political about it.
I remember the writer saying, will he wear a suit? And him getting really pissed that they would ask him that. And then the funny thing about a suit is you can buy them in stores, and when you put them on, you're a guy wearing a suit.
In December of 1998, the transition begins.
Tell me about that show for people who haven't seen it.
It's a take on the news. It feels weird when you're doing a show that satirizes the news. You're almost cheering for chaos, which is a very odd position to be in.
The transition is complete on January 11th, 1999, when the newly rebranded program, The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, airs for the first time.
Welcome to The Daily Show. Craig Kilborn is on assignment in Kuala Lumpur. I'm Jon Stewart.
In the first year, the show sees a modest increase in ratings, including in the crucial 18 to 34 demographic.
Please welcome Michael J. Fox. Give it up for Ed McMahon.
The first couple years when John was there, the guests were mostly people who were in town to promote a movie, or they were like celebrities just for the sake that they were celebrities, or they were comedians.
Please welcome Sarah Jessica Parker. Please welcome Sandra Bullock.
But it soon became apparent that he wanted to actually talk to people with substance, to talk to people who had written books that have meaning.
She's got the background, he's got the interviews, so he's doing that reporting there, and then he's got his take on it. And it's all happening all at once, and it's at a very high level, and it's funny, and it goes fast. Like, nobody can do that.
Presidential candidate Steve Forbes added his 2 billion cents, calling the ruling a, quote, flagrant example of judicial activism. I believe in traditional marriage. Just like his dear old dad.
What John did was he instilled this idea that everything had to have a point of view. You couldn't just do a story for the sake, oh, this is funny. It had to have a point of view. And he really wanted to go after the high targets, the people who were up on a pedestal and needed to be taken down.
John was amazing in an edit room. Like, you'd come back with a field piece and John would look at it and say, no, move this there, move that there, change that piece of VO, and you would go, okay, grudgingly. And then it's like, oh, wow, it's way better.
John came on, took it to a whole new level, gave it his voice.
And then we really started to click in when the campaign started.
He's been behind the desk for a year when it's time for the 2000 presidential campaign. The team launches Indecision 2000.
When Steve Carell and I were given access to John McCain's Straight Talk Express during the New Hampshire primary, that was just, nobody had gotten any sort of access like that before.
We couldn't really believe that we were getting the kind of access that we were. It was fun.
In a moment, I'm going to close my eyes and count down from 10, at which point my colleagues will scatter throughout the convention center. We just thought that'd be the funnest way.
People had to start taking us seriously. Even though we weren't taking ourselves seriously, politicians had to start taking The Daily Show seriously.
At that moment, we started realizing we have to do a good job because people are really starting to pay attention. As the 2000 campaign progressed, a lot of journalists and a lot of on-air people and a lot of the actual politicians started becoming fans.
And then, on November 7th, 2000, for the first time in the modern era, there is no clear winner after Election Day.
So as you can see, it's never going to end.
I think that the 2000 election was a turning point both for the show and for the way that the rest of the world, specifically the media, viewed the show.
The Indecision 2000 thing was, it was like a gift from God.
All right. Florida legislature to name state's electors. Among the names being considered, Cheaty McSteelforbush.
Indecision 2000 was where you saw this young guy with a lot of potential just pick up that baton from Kilborn and just go running to the finish line. And then they pulled it off superbly.
It seemed that it was just kind of the perfect storm for that to happen, and he was kind of the perfect guy to do it. He had the right mix of intelligence and humor. He became, did you watch Jon Stewart last night?
This just in.
Indecision 2000 is considered so influential that it wins the prestigious Peabody Award for Public Service.
Good luck with the Emmys.
Thank you!
Congratulations on the Peabody.
It almost became what it was spoofing. It became a place you went to for news, not a place you went to watch the news lampooned. I think that the success of Indecision 2000 proved that the show had something more to do than just make people laugh from 11 to 11:30. It actually was part of the national dialogue.
Coming up,
he went from being interesting to hot to unavoidable.
When Jon Stewart has left the building, continues.
Let's get this party started. This is the story about a woman with big dreams. Mom, you're here. I have all my kids in one room. She regrets all the things that she missed in her kids' lives. They're all grown up now.
Nah, those same kids whose diapers you changed.
It's a fun movie. How did you meet the groom? C-section. And it has something real. It's about the music of life, where it falls down and loses rhythm and picks it up and brings it home.
Ricky and the Flash, rated PG-13.
Good. Stay. Lie down.
I'd like to take this time.
Roll over. Roll over. Almost. Roll over. Good.
It took Joel Silverman years to become a master dog trainer.
Roll over.
Good job. But only a few commands to master depositing checks at Chase ATMs. Technology designed for you, so you can easily master the way you bank.
We need to make sure that we're putting the customer at the heart of everything that we do. If we don't, then there are other firms that will. With the support and the cooperation with Salesforce, we are turning the dial significantly, which is fundamentally going to transform the way that we engage. We need to partner with the best suppliers of technology and data solutions in the world, and that's why we've chosen to work with Salesforce.
Do you like cougars? Terry, will you shut up? You are adorable.
Thank you. Ladies, your belt's all snugged up?
Why do we have to buckle up? The pickup stinks with diesel. You gotta be kidding! Oh, please! This is the end. Oh. We need resuscitation. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Hurry up.
Join the millions who have already switched.
We switched.
And now we're streaming Netflix. Who knew Time Warner Cable's internet was so fast?
I switched, so I can connect to the internet just about anywhere with my free TWC Wi-Fi hotspots.
Switch to Time Warner Cable. Get 15 meg internet for $39.99 a month.
I switched to Time Warner Cable and knew exactly when they were coming, thanks to their 1-hour appointment window.
Switch now and get 15 meg internet for $39.99 a month. Call 1-855-1TWC.
I do.
Who says a pool can't be in the sky? Who says a living room can't be in a pool? Who says a 5-star luxury vacation can't be all-inclusive? Sandals La Source Grenada takes innovations beyond the realm of imagination. Experience the sandals of tomorrow today. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
If I were a tree, I would be a...
If I were a tree, I would be a root. What does that mean?
The Daily Show's weeks-long Indecision 2000 coverage and antics on the campaign trail catapult Jon Stewart into the media stratosphere.
It just seemed like a fun circus. It just seemed like a fun place to be. It seemed innovative and it seemed unusual. It seemed unlike what other people were doing on TV.
Yeah, I'm not so sure the role of the United States is to go around the world and say, this is the way it's got to be.
Over the years, Stewart develops a no-holds-barred approach. If you fumble or don't get your facts straight, Stewart called you out.
He has made newsmakers and politicians and people in the media conscious about what their gaffes are, right? Maybe more conscientious to try to avoid gaffes. You know, you see people do stuff and then articulate, oh, that's going to end up on The Daily Show.
But resist, we much. We must, and we will much. About that, be committed.
That was either a screw-up or some profound Yoda.
He would hit me on a gaffe, and it would be funny, but it would also kind of nudge you. Sometimes it would be something just totally comical, or sometimes it would be almost like, you know, you could do better than that, Reverend Al, and you take it as, ha, yeah, I better sharpen that up. And but you never took it personally.
But Stewart's talents extend far beyond poking fun at politicians and the media. His audience also comes to depend on him as a reliable source of information.
You know, if I wanted to pick out one thing that best exemplifies our country's peculiar relationship with guns, it might be that the phrase minor shooting incident exists.
Jon Stewart became a voice for left-leaning liberals and intelligent ones, but not ones who were just going to follow blindly. They were going to question everything at every step of the way, whether it was the other party or their own. They were like, wait a minute, why are we doing this? You know, and even worse, why are they doing that?
Here we are. Progress. Chaos created by one's own incompetence that is portrayed as the result of others' malfeasance. That's just bad dictionary right there.
International news for the last 10, 15 years has been incredibly depressing. It's been a tough time, and I think a lot of people wanted to tune it out. But Jon Stewart could make people smile. He could make them realize, yes, what's going on overseas is complicated and dangerous and depressing, but I'm going to tell it to you in a way that makes you laugh. And that got people engaged.
Every year it would come out that young people got all of their news from The Daily Show, or most of their news from The Daily Show and the traditional media outlets, and there's always all this hand-wringing, there was something wrong with that. What was behind that, though, is that he seems trustworthy. And part of that trust that turned him as a comedian into a trusted source of news, part of that trust is emotional trust, that you actually have to believe in his authentic human take on whatever it is he's talking about.
With a loyal and growing following, a who's who from Hollywood to Washington, D.C., and everywhere in between starts to take notice.
This just in, Brokaw interviewed by Jackass.
Nailed it.
The Daily Show became a destination for people who had serious political ambition, and that, I think, was the amazing thing. And that's a tribute to Jon and a tribute to the intelligence of the writers on the show.
He has one of the largest followings and viewerships in America, and if you want votes or ticket buyers or people to buy your book or whatever it is that you're trying to get to a mass base, he has a dependable mass base. So he went from being interesting to hot to unavoidable.
Stewart is not only admired by his fans, but by his peers as well.
Jon knows his stuff. He doesn't go into an interview not knowing his stuff.
Jon actually read all of the author's books that he had on the show, which is crazy. He reads a book like people look through menus or pamphlets.
I remember going on The Daily Show once when my book came out. I wrote a book called Drift on national security issues.
You appear to have invested a great deal of research in this.
Yeah, I just treated it like a second job, kind of.
Well, it's making everybody look bad, is what I'm saying. I don't think any of us appreciate that in any way, shape, or form.
Not only had he read the book, but he had read the other books in the field that I thought were relevant to, the sort of context of what I've written about. There's no substitute for doing that work. And for doing your own thinking and coming up with your own analysis. And that's, I think, in part why he has been so consistently engaging for all of these years, which is that he was bringing something new to the table every single night, and it was his own take on the issue, and that's irreplaceable.
Hello, and are you ready to restore sanity?
In 2010, Jon Stewart takes his wildly popular show on the road. More than 200,000 attend the rally to restore sanity and/or fear in Washington, D.C., co-hosted by Stewart and Stephen Colbert.
We work together to get things done every damn day.
Stewart slams Washington and the media.
The only place we don't is here or on cable TV.
He had the ability to really step up and challenge himself at calling out the rest of the media for not doing its job properly.
If we amplify everything, we hear nothing.
Jon Stewart has something to say, and millions are listening.
We're live. Welcome to Night of Too Many Stars.
In 2006, Stewart begins using his popularity to further a charitable cause. Each year, Stewart calls on his celebrity friends to help raise money for autism. The Night of Too Many Stars has so far raised $18 million.
Everyone, the chance to reach.
While Jon Stewart is publicly shining a light on a cause he holds dear, there is another charitable effort taking place, much more privately, to provide professional opportunities to U.S. war veterans.
A corporation called American Corporate Partners reached out to Jon Stewart and asked him to mentor one veteran.
American Corporate Partners is a not-for-profit organization that connects veterans like August Donnell to business leaders.
Jon Stewart said, don't give me one, give me 24 or 20, and I want to take them through the Daily Show program and teach them what we do here.
The Daily Show Veteran Immersion Program is born, and Donnell is one of the first to work beside Jon Stewart and his staff. To date, more than 70 veterans have benefited from the program.
Jon Stewart was very involved with us. It's amazing to know that there are people out there in the country for these returning veterans that are coming home that really do care about them, that really do want them to succeed, and will do things above and beyond to help them succeed.
For 16 years, Jon Stewart has made his Daily Show audience laugh, but he's also made them think.
They felt that he was not watering down the news. He was giving it in a language that everyone understood, intergenerational. Young people could understand it, but old people didn't have to ask their kids, what did he mean by that?
Jon Stewart's popularity grows, and The Daily Show becomes a newsmaker itself.
He had one great advantage. Everyone wanted to be on his show. Because he had that power, he could ask people anything, and he usually did.
When guests came on, almost everything they did made some news, and it sort of powered a million blogs the next morning.
All the candidates want to be on, even though I'm sure they're afraid at the same time.
I think I know whose side they're on.
No, they're on America's side because the Patriots.
Obama in particular has been pretty funny when he's been on there.
If you could, I'd like you to hope up some of these very common phrases that people hear. I'm calling to ask if you're happy with your cell phone service.
I'm calling to find out if you're happy with your cell phone service.
Well done, sir.
There's such an officiousness to our presidents now. You don't feel like you know the person. And yet when they're sitting there, you know, fooling around with Jon Stewart, maybe they have a sense that people see the other side of them.
I'm issuing a new executive order that Jon Stewart cannot leave the show.
Jon Stewart is taken seriously by important guests, not only because he's popular, but because he sheds light on issues in a way no one else does.
Jon's brand of satire is valuable because people retain information more when it entertains them. So if you can get an important idea across to me and make me laugh at the same time, I'm going to remember it.
Here, he tackles George W. Bush's handling of the economy.
It's interesting what the price of gasoline has done is it caused people to drive less. The marketplace works.
It's interesting what the mortgage crisis has done. It's getting more people to live outside. Marketplace works.
Stewart isn't afraid to challenge politicians on hot topics like climate change.
How long will it take for the sea level to rise 2 feet? I mean, think about it. If your ice cube melts in your glass, it doesn't overflow. It's displacement. I mean, this is the thing, some of the things that they're talking about mathematically and scientifically don't make sense.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Stewart is an early critic of the Iraq War, which is waged through much of his run as host of The Daily Show.
Well, let's start tonight with our continuing coverage of Mesopotamia.
I think what Jon Stewart was always asking us to look into was, where is the evidence? Just run the evidence past me one more time. I'm not sure that I understand it. And that's what a lot of journalists felt like they had wished they had done in retrospect, is really question what's the impetus for this.
By the way, you can have all these memorable screw-ups and more. Just call now and order. Now that's what I call being completely wrong about a rock. Anyhow.
Sometimes, even for Jon Stewart, there is no punchline.
Jon Stewart allowed himself the vulnerability of being emotional at times and not even knowing how to deal with it, except allowing those emotions to come out.
And sometimes his authentic human take is sad or speechless or moved in a way that makes him not want to be funny.
But I didn't do my job today. So I apologize. I got nothing for you in terms of like jokes and sounds because of what happened in South Carolina. And maybe
this wasn't a gimmick. This wasn't something that he was conjuring up. He had nothing. And then we went there with him because we had nothing.
I honestly have nothing other than just sadness, once again, that we have to peer into the abyss of the depraved violence that we do to each other and the nexus of a just gaping racial wound that will not heal, yet we pretend doesn't exist.
I think that captured a sort of weariness in America about guns, about mass shootings, about violence. He just shared in our exhaustion with it all. And there's something disarming about that.
Perhaps the most difficult moment in the show's history, finding the right words after 9/11.
There's no other way really to start the show than to ask you at home the question that we asked the audience here tonight and that we've asked everybody that we know here in New York since September 11th, and that is, are you okay?
When Jon spoke from the heart and didn't go for the joke, it was moving, but its strength was that it gauged exactly what we needed at that moment.
Any fool can destroy. But to see these guys, these firefighters, these policemen, and people from all over the country, literally with buckets, rebuilding, that's extraordinary. And that's why we've already won.
We're all watching the show being taped, and we're all standing around looking like, okay, who's going to be the first one to start crying?
The view from my apartment was the World Trade Center. And now it's gone. And they attacked it. This symbol of American ingenuity and strength and labor and imagination and commerce, and it is gone. But you know what the view is now? The Statue of Liberty.
It was a really terrible, terrible time in New York, and I think what he did was really brave and eloquent and heartfelt, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house.
The view from the south of Manhattan is now the Statue of Liberty. You can't beat that.
It was really like one of those moments where like you're never going to forget it the rest of your life.
We'll be right back.
One thing we've learned during Jon Stewart's tenure at The Daily Show is if you're defying his logic, he will take you down.
Sometimes it's uncomfortable to watch, but I don't think it's ever happened in a case where you could really seriously argue that it wasn't just a little bit deserved.
No one is off limits, even world leaders like former Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf.
Last time you were here, I asked you where Osama bin Laden was. Funny story. As it turns out, he was there. So that was weird.
Stewart also confronts journalists like Judith Miller.
That I believe that you helped the administration take us to like the most devastating mistake in foreign policy that we've made in like 100 years. But you seem lovely.
He's done a very good job in keeping people to task. He was relentless. The more they would dig in, firing back, he would dig in going after him. So he couldn't be intimidated.
Stewart isn't even intimidated by some of America's sacred institutions like Chicago-style pizza.
This is not pizza. This is tomato soup in a bread bowl. This is an above-ground marinara swimming pool for rats.
And through the years, no one person or entity is a bigger target of The Daily Show than Fox News.
Your job is to discredit any source of criticism that might hurt the conservative brand.
Fox News is the gift that keeps on giving. You almost think it's fake. You know, you kind of, if you think, well, boy, you have good comedy writers. It's chilling, but it's funny.
By the way, for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white, but this person is just arguing that maybe we should also have a black Santa. But, you know, Santa is what he is, and just so you know, we're just debating this because someone wrote about it, kids.
I think if anything made him angry, it would be when he could point out that somebody's just saying something that's a blatant lie or it's completely wrong, and you could feel that anger and fury coming out.
Chaos on Bull Mountain!
In one episode, John spends the entire show impersonating the antics of then Fox News host Glenn Beck.
I'm not saying that believing there should be a minimum standard for how much lead can be in our paint might lead to the government having the right to sterilize and kill Jews. I'm not saying that that might be the case. I'm saying that's the case.
But Stewart's favorite sparring partner at Fox is Bill O'Reilly.
Like anyone else, I love the O'Reilly interviews. They're crazy television.
You and I are lucky guys. We made it, we worked hard. It's not because we're white.
Wait. Well...
Oh, you think I'm sitting here because I'm white? What are you, a moron? I'm sitting here because I'm obnoxious, not because I'm white.
No. And when the sword is so sharp as someone as John would have, it's so fun watching someone get shish kebabbed.
Did that upbringing leave a mark on you even today?
Of course. Every upbringing leaves a mark on other people.
Could black people live in Levittown?
Not at that time. They could not.
So that, my friend, is what we call in the business white privilege.
Okay.
He was honestly interested in engaging with O'Reilly about what O'Reilly does, and then some things where he really wanted to make him answer for them.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
The far right seems like an obvious source of material, but sometimes the left gets hit just as hard.
We were an equal opportunity offender, which meant that if there was bad behavior, we were going to comment on it, and we would very happily cross political and party lines.
That's the case when Secretary of Health and Human Services Kathleen Sebelius stops by to discuss the rollout of the Obamacare website.
Nice to see you. We're going to do a challenge. I'm going to try and download every movie ever made. And you're going to try and sign up for Obamacare, and we'll see which happens first.
Okay.
I think what makes Jon Stewart so powerful is that he can look at what his own people are doing and say, hello, what are we doing? And honestly, that's the important thing. If you're going to be a pundit, you have to sort of look at everything, particularly if you're going to be a funny pundit.
One of Stewart's most infamous confrontations comes on March 12, 2009, when CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer takes the hot seat in the wake of one of the biggest American financial crises to date.
How the hell did we end up here, Mr. Cramer? What happened?
I don't know.
I think John was trying to channel this kind of national sense of anger at everything that had happened. And so when Jim Cramer got in that room, he was the embodiment of everything that John wanted to take down. And boy, did he take him down.
It feels like we are capitalizing your adventure by our pension and our hard-earned, and that it is a game that you know is going on, but that you go on television as a financial network and pretend isn't happening.
Okay.
When John is faced with someone that is infuriating and you're just thinking, sick 'em, John, sick 'em.
Listen, you knew what the banks were doing, and yet we're touting it for months and months. The entire network was. And so now to pretend that this was some sort of crazy, once-in-a-lifetime tsunami that nobody could have seen coming is disingenuous at best and criminal at worst.
he is so armed with facts and he's so armed with clips that they have no idea what's coming.
We've made mistakes. We got 17 hours of live TV a day to do. But I certainly...
Maybe you could cut down on that.
Jon Stewart has played a major role in redefining how the public gets its news. But The Daily Show was never a one-man show.
Let me assure my viewers that from now on there will be no pussying out.
Ladies, am I right? What's up?
My sources tell me if he doesn't win, his mother has said she will stop loving him.
Many of the show's on-air correspondents have gone on to become major players in Hollywood and on TV. Steve Carell, Ed Helms, John Oliver, Stephen Colbert, and countless others all rose to fame after cutting their teeth sharing airtime with Stewart.
When John came on, he knew that he needed correspondence. He needed people to play off of.
John's front and center, but I think John let all of us shine. Oh, even I felt gay buying a ticket to this movie.
I got to work with Steve Carell and I got to work with Stephen Colbert. And Colbert and Carell were two of the most naturally funny people I've ever met in my life.
And they were just so effortlessly, they're bam every time. Every writer was like, oh, give it to a Steve, give it to a Steve.
In what seemed like a good idea at the time, we tested the effects of massive quantities of alcohol on a human subject. Specifically, Steve Carell.
We did an anti-drinking piece where we actually just went out and locked off a camera and Carell drank and drank and drank and drank until he was actually really drunk.
It is now 10:35. Steve has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drinks, and he's moving on to his 8th.
Steve Carell had this sort of amazing combination of arrogance and stupidity, which it just worked perfectly together.
Senator, how do you reconcile the fact that you were one of the most vocal critics of pork barrel politics, and yet, while you were chairman of the Commerce Committee, that committee set a record for unauthorized appropriations? I'm just kidding. I don't even know what that means.
Colbert found his persona and ran with it.
Have you had a chance to go to Disney World?
Actually, I didn't make it on this.
Did you have a chance to go to Universal Studios?
No, I missed those fundraisers.
Have you had a chance to lie to Congress?
You know,
When Colbert was given his turn at the anchor desk, fans and producers took notice.
John left for a few months to do a movie called Death to Smoochie, and the correspondents were each given their night to fill in for John.
Welcome to The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Ironically, I'm Stephen Colbert.
And we're watching and we're like, this guy should have his own show. He just like hit it out of the park.
If my presence here makes the fake news you're about to hear any less credible, I've done my job.
To see a guy who had that many comedic skills really get his chance to show us what he has was magic.
The Steves may be A-listers now, but how they landed on a little cable show in the late 90s is the stuff of legend.
And this agent called me up and said, I'm going to send you a tape of this guy named Stephen Colbert. It was a sketch called Waiters Who Are Nauseated by Food from the short-lived Dana Carvey show.
We have a milk-fed veal with a mint jelly. That comes with asparagus tips and an olive caper sauce.
Took one look, and I called the guy back, and I said, when can he start?
2 seasons later, The Daily Show is looking for more talent.
So I called back. I knew it was crazy. And I said, hey, do you have another Stephen Colbert? And he said, well, go back to the tape that you loved so much and check out the waiter in the back.
Today's seafood is flounder.
That's his best friend and his performing partner from Second City, Steve Carell. And the rest, as they say, is history.
But everybody was great. I worked with Vance DeGeneres and with Mo Rocca, Beth Littleford. They all had different personas.
I loved working with Beth because she had this great combination of sincerity and sarcasm.
You know, John, it's an American tradition. I mean, how can a young girl expect to gain any self-esteem if she isn't allowed to be judged as she parades around in a bathing suit twirling a baton?
I liked the Barbara Walters parodies that I did.
We would put like Vaseline on the lens, even though we didn't need to.
I've sat down with my fair share of dysfunctional child stars. Todd Bridges, Gary Coleman, a very bitter David Cassidy.
Boy George and I had a lot of fun.
Have you ever thought about settling down, marrying Nicole Kidman, and adopting a couple of kids?
Ooh.
The crack team of fake reporters helped Stewart make The Daily Show appointment television, cleverly tackling any topic, from race relations.
You're saying that in these times, the new face of criminality is now white.
I'm glad you're finally admitting you thought it was black.
To terrorism.
We're just trying to do a thing here where we say Iranians like hate Americans. Can you just do that for me?
To taxes.
New Jersey has the highest property tax in the nation.
I know. What are you getting for it? Because it's an awful state.
Exactly.
We hired great people, and they went on to greatness.
The correspondents on that show have such a great platform to establish who they are, what their voice is, what their point of view is. So I would imagine anyone who's been on that show and has shown how funny they can be has a really big future in front of them.
So yes, behind every great host is a great cast of characters, and no one knows that better than the man himself.
When you look at the talent that's passed through these doors, it'd have been hard to screw this show up. I just want to thank everybody who lent their talents to this program. It meant the world.
I mean, a big part of his legacy is going to be Jon Stewart, executive producer. You know, Jon Stewart as launcher of careers.
What you want is a leader who's able to mentor people on the show and not feel jealous when their talent begins to rise. And I think instead of being upset about that or competitive, he felt pride in that. And that, I think, is what a leader is.
Thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you, John.
You are retiring at the top of your game like most people wish they could go out. You're going to spend all this time with your kids. I'm telling you right now, it may be 2 months from now. It could be 6 months from now, 6 weeks from now. You'll be on that farm in New Jersey with your family, hanging out, and your kids will turn to you one day and say, Dad, we love you. Get a job.
After 16 years, more than 2,500 episodes, 20 Emmys, and 2 Peabody Awards, the curtain has closed on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. His last show raises more than $2 million for New York Collaborates for Autism in a raffle-like drawing to attend the final taping. As Jon Stewart leaves the set, adoring fans are left to wonder, what's next? Some believe it will be a stab at a career as a movie director.
Going to shoot a little movie there, a movie based on really an amazing story that began with a field piece.
In 2013, Jon Stewart took an extended hiatus from The Daily Show, 12 weeks, to direct his first movie, Rosewater.
I got the sense, just from what I read, that Jon Stewart really enjoyed his first directorial effort as a filmmaker, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see more of that. I hope he takes a little bit of a vacation and then figures out whatever he wants to do. But certainly there'll be people who can't wait to see what he does next.
He's been doing this show for 17 years, so he probably, the first thing he's probably going to do is rest.
You want to take some time to just remember what your family looks like and enjoy these things called evenings.
So, many are curious, what will the new Daily Show look like in the hands of a relatively unknown South African comic, Trevor Noah?
Welcome to The Daily Show.
With me, Trevor Noah.
I'm excited to see what the new Daily Show is. I think the idea that a new host brings a new sensibility, a new point of view is always exciting to see. I think the smart thing that they're doing, I think, with The Daily Show is they're not trying to reinvent it.
Hey, Trevor. Could you give me like 20 more minutes and then
It'll be exciting to see what Trevor Noah brings to it.
Trevor Noah is very funny and very smart, and more than anything, charming and really likable. And that's kind of what you need. I believe in him. I hope it goes well.
Of course, The Daily Show has transitioned before. But following Jon Stewart, many feel Trevor Noah has big shoes to fill.
Jon Stewart, from soup to nuts, in terms of the way that show is orchestrated, it's been so good night after night for so long. I think he's changed media and politics more than he will ever admit. But what I will just miss is watching him on TV.
I think he'll be remembered as someone who helped young people get through this horrible period that has been the 9/11 generation.
I think that he will be always revered as someone who blurred the lines between news and comedy and who became the conscience of a generation.
Every once in a while you see an original, and Jon Stewart is an original.
Hey, guess what? I got big news. This is it. This is the final episode.
On Thursday night, that original signed off The Daily Show on Comedy Central for the very last time.
I'll never forget you, John, but I will be trying.
Good riddance, smartass.
And just when I'm running for president. What a bummer. See ya, pipsqueak.
Have fun feeding your rabbits, quitter.
I'm Jon Stewart. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. Yeah. So long, jackass.
I've been asked and have the privilege to say something to you that is not in the prompter right now.
Please don't do
Here's the thing, John. You said to me and to many other people here years ago never to thank you because we owe you nothing. It is one of the few times I've known you to be dead wrong. We owe you, and we are better people for having known you. You are a great artist and a good man.
I've worked in a lot of different atmospheres at varying levels of toxicity. And this is the most beautiful place I've ever been, and I'll never have that again. And I had to come to terms with that before leaving, knowing what I was walking away from.
The end of an era. Comedian, writer, producer, director, actor, and critic.
Guys, let me make something clear. I'm not dying.
Jon Stewart has left the building.